Tesla is up big right now and could continue to do so in 2025. Is this the moment to add it to your portfolio? If you own it now, should you continue to buy more? Or is there a speed bump or two that you might want to be aware of? Let's go ahead and break it down. As always, I want to take my time to give you context. Now, not everybody enjoys me taking my time and just giving you everything that you need to know. I prefer giving you more information than less. Okay? Call it how you see it. All right? But here's the thing. Okay? I prefer to give you any biases that I may have, any conflicts of interest, or anything like that. Okay? I am critical of Elon Musk. I call it like I see it. When he does things that are trash or questionable, we talk about it. I said buying Twitter was dumb, and it was. As an investment, it was. Okay? We'll see whether or not that becomes a good or bad thing financially for him and what that means for him down the line. Okay? When Tesla earlier this year was down 30 to 40%, we talked about it. I called it one of the most disappointing stocks at that point this year. And it was past tense. That is no longer the case. And it is always why when we talk about stocks, I always say from the point of this video, and I say in the last X amount of months, in the last year, because time does matter. And just like I said in yesterday's video about the stocks that are bad right now, there was one of those that said, hey, it might not be like this forever. And last time that we had talked about Tesla, we were comparing it to some other tech stocks. And I said right now, compared to others, it ain't doing so well. And I also said in the last video we talked about Tesla, and I'll make sure that it's linked somewhere. We had also said that I would not sell because Elon has this meme factor. He has a cult factor to him where people just believe in him and it could just take off for any moment, whether it is warranted or not. So I've got some positives, some negatives, and some things that you should just be aware of. So let's start off with the good. Obviously, Tesla, it's got some momentum with it, okay? In the last 6 months alone, up 94%. 94% gain in the last 6 months is obviously incredible. And up 47% over last year. That, I call it like I see it, that's hard to hate, okay? The money is the money. Now, how I feel about him as an individual and his impact on other stuff, I'm looking at the money. I'm looking at the chart. And it's up 94% in 6 months and up 47% over last year. That is not up for debate. Whether it should be, or whether the amount of ugly Tesla trucks should be that, or whether the truck is ugly or not, it don't matter. What my account says and what the chart says, we go on with the chart. Okay, that is the name of the game. And right now, the stock is doing quite well, and I think it could continue to do so again in 2025. Now, here's the thing. Why do I think it can continue? One of the reasons why that is the case in 2025, we did get some hints for the new administration, because that's what this is really going to come down to, is context. What are the things that are going to be laid before us for what we can see in the future, the foreseeable future? Well, we do have reasonable guesses right now that the self-driving rules around cars could be relaxed. That is going to be a boon for companies like Tesla. Now, it's not the only company is going to benefit, but obviously Tesla is going to be one of the front runners there, and that is one of the reasons why Tesla had an additional spike, in addition to some of the other things as well. So, Tesla being, again, one of the companies on the forefront, and you hear that the incoming president-elect, and the cabinet that he's picking, assuming they are confirmed, says, oh, look, we're looking to kind of step back and, let's say, deregulate or not be as aggressive in regulating self-driving cars. They could be a lot more aggressive in pushing that out to the market, and that could help them to grab more market share, push out more products, so on and so forth. That could be very good for Tesla, and we have some financial numbers that you want to pay attention to as well behind that. Also, the finances for Tesla, I don't think enough people actually talk about it, and this is better than what I thought before looking into it. So starting in 2021, the net income, okay, you pay your bills, what you got left over, okay? Net income in 2021, these are annual numbers, so we're going to get 2024 here once 2024 closes. It was a growth of 555% in net income, which is crazy. Then in 2022, growth of 123%, and then in 2019, 19% growth. So first off, you're thinking 500%, then just 100%, then just 20%. Anytime you get double-digit growth in net income is very, very good. But remember, you've got EV credits, you've got pandemic and all those kind of things in there that give you extreme numbers. So you don't want to make 500% or even 100% your baseline. 19% is very, very good. Should that continue, that by itself is good. Okay, that's a very good baseline to run from, or to have, just from a solid double-digit perspective. Net income growing. Imagine your personal income growing by 20% a year. That is incredible. That is very, very solid. But that is not the only thing. But those are the good things. Okay, so those are the positives. You got good, healthy net income. You obviously have sales. The stock is obviously growing. And you might have, at least half of the time, regulatory things moving in your favor. But there are some negative things. I'm going to look at this straight down the line and call it again, just like I see it. Before we get to that, don't forget that I have a whole investing class, but I also have an investing guide on how you can start investing in just 20 minutes. Okay, very quick, very simple. If you can read fast, you can get to it in 20 minutes or less. That investing guide is right here. All right. Next, let's talk about the bad. All right. EV credits. This has been one of the best things for Tesla. I think the credit right now is like $7,500. This was, I wouldn't call this a threat. Donald Trump has I don't want to say threatened, I guess. I said threat earlier, but basically this could get axed. He said, hey, we might cut back on this. Not only could this severely hurt Tesla, but this is something that hurt the stock immediately once this came out. But what's the easiest way to say this? Because I don't want to say that this is going to tank the stock in and of itself, because it won't. Okay, this is not something that's going to crash the entire company. So again, I don't want to overrate this. I don't want to, scare everybody off or anything like that. But there are a lot of people who get into electric cars because of this credit, because it is a lot, and it does mean something to people who are getting into electric vehicles to begin with. And it won't just be Tesla that quote unquote pays for this in general. But it is something that matters. You will see less sales. To what degree, I'm not entirely sure, because the world is still moving towards electric vehicles anyway. Is this an actual thing that will happen? Will it happen in 2025? Or is it something that will just expire in 2027 or something like that? That's a question that I would have, but it is something you absolutely want to have on your radar. With the increased relationship that Elon has now with the president, with these two volatile people, maybe their relationship will ensure that this credit does not expire. I don't know. But at that point, I go away from investing, and that moves into hoping. If you really think about it, I'm just talking about I hope these two people that I don't know, that I've never met, I'm just hoping and imagining that they would get into a room and just not, I'm imagining a conversation and they would do something that would benefit my pockets. Like that's a bunch of guessing and imagining and a lot of hard work and imagination that I would have to do. That just doesn't make sense. At that point, what are you doing? You just hoping. You might as well just go to the lottery and just hope that you get the right ticket at that point in time, right? So what we know now today is that they could be axed, and it's just a risk. Okay, this is not something I would say I would pull my investment from, but it is just a risk you should be aware of. And what I would do right now is start to read up on Tesla and see what are they doing to counteract this. A part of what they have been doing is lowering their EV prices, because that is something that has helped. It also has hurt their margins, but it is something that has helped and has made it more accessible in getting people in their cars, which is important for adoption across the board. Next thing is debt. Their debt is up 56%. Now, the good news about the debt is, yes, interest rates have come down thanks to the Fed, so it's not as expensive as it was used to be, but nobody wants to be in debt. Even if it's a company, yes, most companies do have some level of debt, but that is something that might be concerning down the line. If sales start to come down because of the EV credit, That's a question I would be concerned about. Is it something I need to be concerned about right now, today in 2024? Not necessarily, but we are long-term investors. This is something I would just be, concerned about. Yeah, I didn't say it twice already, but it is something just, these are questions I would ask when I am going into earnings season. These are the questions. Really, when I think about this, when I say questions I would have, because you can't just walk up to Elon. I guess you could tweet him, X him or whatever it is you want to call it. But you can tweet him and see if he tweets you back, I suppose. But these are questions that I may literally write down and kind of have in a document. And as I read the next earnings report, read through that and see where you can find that information and whether or not those questions are found somewhere. Sometimes you might not get it because it could be a very niche question, but in the risk section, they may say, hey, this credit could be cut. We are reliant on X, Y, and Z. These things are there. And then sometimes they may say, further in the document, this is what we are trying to do. Here's where we are spending our money, X, Y, and Z. That may make you feel better, or at least let you know that they are thinking about addressing these risks and how to pivot all of these things. So that when I say these are the questions that I would have, you may, keyword may, find those answers in those documents. So last question is for us, not for them. Should you invest if you don't already? Only you know what's in your portfolio, but I do think Tesla is investable. Now, if you asked me 10 years ago, obviously, we know now, yes, Tesla was always investable. No, duh, right? But I've always been on the, hold your nose and invest in Tesla since they were added to the S&P 500, I think in 2021. I've been holding Tesla since then, and I've just been holding on to it. I will tell you that Tesla can be a roller coaster. It is amazing right now. It's great right now. And I'm, it's somewhere tucked off my portfolio, and I just haven't been looking at it, which is how some of the best investors operate. Okay, and that is totally fine. But there will come a time when Tesla does tank. You may see me come up here and tell you that Tesla is tanking. And there may come a time, hopefully, for my sake as well, because I do own it. I think people forget that just because I come up here and tell you the truth about what is actually happening with something means that I don't own it or I'm hating on ex-CEO, what have you. Bruh, I too may be losing money on that particular stock as well, but the truth is the truth. I'm looking at it and it's down. It's down. Okay, it is what it is. But when it comes to Tesla, just because of the nature of Elon and what he may or may not be distracted with at that point in time, that is also a risk that you may have to be aware of. And what it really comes down to is you. It really comes down to you. Are you somebody that can stomach someone like that and just tune it out when and if he does something that you don't like or that may cause the stock to tank? Can you do that? Will that bother you, yes or no? And I say that because right now it is benefiting you. Right now, the stock is up again 94%. However, just a few years ago, when he was tweeting about his taxes on Twitter, when he was, spending, $40 billion or whatever it was to buy Twitter, and he was doing that whole saga, and the stock was tanking back then because he was loudly not focused on Tesla. When he was doing that and the stock was down, that was why. Because Tesla, when you looked at the numbers, Tesla was pumping out vehicles. They were surpassing expectations, but he was loudly unfocused. And because of that, and because people didn't like what he was doing with Twitter, the stock was tanking. And that was the celebrity factor. So can you stomach that? And when that happens, are you, the investor, going to be okay with saying, hey, I'm going to continue buying anyway, and I'm just going to mind my own business? That's what's really going to come down to. For me, that's why the shares of Tesla that I do own, I tuck them in the back of my portfolio, and I don't pay attention to it. Because if I'm looking at it, and personally, I don't like that man. I do not like that man, okay? So I tuck it in my back of my portfolio and just leave it alone. So can you do that or can you not? That's totally up to you, okay? And I can't tell you where you fall in that. But I can tell you right now, the stock is very good, and I think just based on what we know about the company, how it's structured, it is a good stock, and I think it's a good long-term stock. Okay, but it's really going to come down to how you manage it and if you are going to be able to hold when things get rough. That is going to be the biggest question, and only you can manage that at the end of the day. Because if you sell it and it takes off down the line, that's going to be on you at the end of the day. Lastly, if you want to learn more about Tesla and then some of the negative things I've talked about it in the past, which may or may not have aged as well, you want to check out these videos here.